So we have an exciting agenda just to make sure that we kick off our first edition of the Roundup call on a high note. We'll be discussing and presenting the Android task notification feature, which should be available soon. And this is one of the features that a lot of community members have been asking for, and we would like to continue to get your perspective so that you can be able to refine that feature before we release it. And then related to a lot of questions that have been coming from the community, we will also be going through the CHT course interactive calculator, and this calculator can be used to calculate the hosting costs for CHT deployments. So this will be very useful to most of the deployments as you plan to scale or plan to deploy your CHT applications. And then we would still have time for Q&A and share community updates related to what the community is working on and some of the engagement rates for last year. So looking forward to an engaging session, and please feel free to raise your hand or type your question in our meeting chat if you have any question. So on to our first presentation, which is the Android task notification feature. And this time round, we would start by hearing some of the insights and requirements that have come from the community and various deployments which are interested in this feature. And to kick us off, we'll call upon Pawan to take us through insights from Nepal. So we can move to the next slide. Pawan?
Thank you, Anthony. Hi, everyone. I am Pawan, and currently I'm working in Medic, based in Nepal. So, regarding the task notification feature, this feature request came from our health workers who are already using the CST app here in Nepal, and they perform the multiple tasks during use of CST in their everyday activity. So one of the tasks is to use and update the CST regularly. Basically, our user are health workers, uh, nursings staff who are in health facility. So the CST create multiple tasks for different use cases. So our current use cases are ANC, PNC, delivery, immunization, and nutrition. So there was a bunch of tasks in their CST app. So the task notification will help them to get ready for the services need to provide on that day, on the current day. So basically, our idea is to show the notification feature for the tasks whose due date was today, or who are already late for reaching care. So notifications should be prioritized as like first come first serve is per timeline. So we'll prioritize the deadline and the task, right? So this feature will also push health workers to open the app and follow up with client for required health services and complete the task on time. It also helps them to identify the services needed for the client with timely delivery, and it also helps to increase the overall national indicators set by the government. It also helps to engage our health workers by increasing the app usage, as well as remind those who forget or missed their to-dos list, which was already inside the app in the task tab. So yeah, and finally, it will help to make active to those CST user, to those health workers who have a lot of tasks to do in their daily activity. So that's the idea. Thank you. Over to you, Anthony.
All right, thanks, Pawan. I think before we head to the Uganda user story, I would invite Arjun from India just to share on a high level why they might also require this feature in the upcoming deployments. Arjun, if you can hear me.
Yes, Anthony. Could you please repeat your question? I missed your
Yeah,
voice.
I was saying in a minute or two, you can also just share additional needs or requirements for the Android notification feature that you have for your specific deployment.
Yes. So we are currently using Medic CHT app in our Tamil Nadu state of India, where our field associates conduct a health screening in rural area for large village population. But due to workload, sometime it is possible that they may miss the follow-up schedules. They may forget to revisit the previously screened patients. That may lead to delayed follow-ups. That is not actually good. We are currently using SMS gateway method, and which is highly economical. We are just using it for last 2 to 3 months, and it is working perfectly fine. But the request came from field associate that if we can get a notification, in-app notification, similar to our other applications like WhatsApp or other reminder application, so that it will be easier for them to open the app directly from the notification, go to that specific user's follow-up page and start screening, so that they will never miss any follow-up tasks. So this was one request from our field associate, and that's why we also connected to you for this requirement.
All right. Thanks for that. Then the one last user story is from Uganda, and that would come from Jonathan.
Yes, hi everyone. Jonathan has introduced, working with Medican based in Kampala, Uganda. So the Uganda user story is basically we had an integration between a bunch of systems, as mentioned there. One is the issues, which is the CHT instance, the lab X, which is like a system for the lab. This is a medical lab. And then the ACBSS, which is a community-based surveillance system. So the notification feature or requirement came about when, because of this integration, we have the lab X, which is the lab system, sending kind of like TB results. This entire integration was about TB and diagnosing TB in the community and getting healthcare closer to people with timely care, that is, to the people with TB. So ideally, once a community health worker reports some TB samples to the lab sends back these results into CHT, where a task is created for the community health worker to follow up with the patient. So the problem came about that whenever these tasks would get generated in the CHW's phone, there is a chance that they may never know that these results actually were sent back from the lab and they're actually ready and the patient is ready for a follow-up check. So there were alternatives that were discussed, mainly just like our colleague from India mentioned. Currently, what we have is a messaging kind of notification, SMS notification, that is. So when the lab is responsible for that, the lab sends his SMS notification to the CFW. But this is not sustainable, especially as you scale up with many users. These cost money, and so mainly what people wanted is to centralize this entire workflow into the same system where users can get these notifications in the app. And hence the birth of this feature and the work we've done thus far. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, we could move to the next slide and still it's for you, Jonathan.
All right, I'll continue from here. So a couple of few months we've been working on this feature. So basically, the way it works is it's showing task notification periodically. It's designed to work offline and within the existing CHT ecosystem, basically meaning you won't need to implement a bunch of other technologies or anything else to have this feature work for you. Maybe just an upgrade of a couple of technologies is the requirement for this. So the notifications are for pending tasks, that is tasks that are due and those that are overdue. And users will receive a notification for this type of tasks at least once a day until this task expires or is completed. Essentially, if it disappears from the tasks page, then the notifications will stop coming. Yeah, as you can see on the right, this is what the sample notification would look like. And this one is showing specifically a team B kind of this workflow, like the one that we were working on here, or I just explained previously. Yeah, maybe we could move to the next slide. Thank you. Yeah, so moving further to this feature, it's basically it's a customizable kind of feature where this icon, as you can see in the image on top, the notification icon, it can be customized to fit the need of the deployment or project, and as well as the text. If you look at the image below, the content text can also be customized and translated to whatever it needs to say. The number of notification a user can receive at a go is also configurable. It's 8 by default, but it can be decreased or increased. Though increasing it, 8 is like most of the Android operating system default. If anything goes beyond 8, they will put that notification in there, but it only shows the first 8 essentially in the tray. But these others will be there. The only way to see them is to swipe the ones that are visible. That's why it's been defaulted to 8. There is a new permission. This is a CHT permission. It shouldn't be confused with the Android notification permissions. So this is essentially a permission that is assigned to a role, and any role that has that kind of permission will be able to receive notifications for tasks. Yeah. And like I mentioned earlier on, this feature requires updates to the CHT core, the CHT Android, and the CHT conf for configuration. And then maybe what I wanted to have some sort of insight is what would really want to have as the next improvement to the feature. Maybe we think of notifications beyond just task notifications or a bunch of other things, maybe just communication to the VHTs, to the CHWs, and other use cases for all the various importance of notifications as mentioned by previous speakers. Yeah. Maybe I can pause there if there are any questions, feedback.
Jonathan, quick question. You could also customize the notifications to appear during a specific time. Let's say for Uganda, they can appear at, let's say, 9 a.m. And that can be based on the time that the village health teams start working, right?
So no, that is not customizable. Currently, notifications will appear as soon as a new day starts. That's at midnight. But of course, even devices, some may appear after, maybe when the device is opened, because Android most of the times pauses notification and background work when the phone is off. But ideally, in an ideal situation where the device allows it, they'll come as soon as a new day starts, and they continue throughout the day as tasks are generated. So the previous ones that are overdue from yesterday, let's say, will appear at midnight. And then in the morning, when you wake up, check your phone, these notifications will be there. And then as you continue working during the day, a new task is generated, you'll get a notification. A task is generated, just a new notification is generated. That's if that task is not completed. Yeah. I don't know, that is something actually that was discussed in the very initial discussions of having it start at 9. I don't know if it's that important anyway.
And just to confirm, once you submit a form, let's say today, and a new task is triggered, you get another notification, even if you had received one earlier, right?
Could you repeat that, please?
All right. I'm a CHW. I go to a household and probably submit a form. And like today, I had already received a notification. Let's say it came at around 10. And then I go to a household, submit a form, and a new task is generated. I can call it an emergency task, and it's due, let's say, today. And then, so will like the user get another notification in addition to the notification a user had received in the morning?
Yeah, the notifications for unique instances of any task. So if a task is generated and it fits into the number of notifications allowed to be sent to the user, then it will be triggered. Say the one in the morning at 9 and another one it will trigger, and then you do another task again at 10, it will also trigger a notification.
Okay, thanks. I think we can continue then hear more questions from the community members after the demo.
I have an app here installed. So when I open the app, I don't know if you can see my screen. It seems to be frozen on my end.
Yes,
Okay.
I can see your screen.
All right. So if I open this app, and the app doesn't have the Android permissions for the notification permission, that is, then it will request for these permissions from the user. Just so to note, this feature can be turned off by the user simply by turning off these notifications. So if the app doesn't have these permissions, then even if the user has the CHT permission to do notifications, these notifications won't come through. Yeah. So if I allow this, as soon as I allow, you can see that a bunch of oh, I don't think I can show notifications while presenting. I think it's a security feature or something. But ideally, as you can see, my second kind of notification, it's like a group notification, but ideally should have 3 of them. So when I click on it, okay. Yeah, the presentation thing has been set up, but ideally, clicking on the notification, any of the notification will open the tasks page as shown there, so that the user can view pending tasks. Yeah. Over.
All right. Thanks, Jonathan. Any questions from community members? Please feel free to unmute yourself and share any question.
Thanks, Jonathan. This is a really amazing feature to see come into being, and really neat to hear the community express interest in it. I was reflecting on CHT Watchdog, which has an alert feature for when there's something you need to tend to your CHT instance. And there's a parallel here about CHWs getting notifications for tasks they need to tend to. How do we prevent sort of a notification overwhelming? So in CHT Watchdog, when there's like 30 or 40 alerts per day, the administrator just is like, there's too many. I don't know what to do. I'm no longer paying attention to these, because after 20 or 30, it's just inactionable, right? You can't handle it. You just ignore all of them. So it's a signal versus noise. So I wasn't sure if we've tried to look at real world task counts and seeing if there's, like most users don't have more than 5 tasks that would fire the alerts, or what happens when there's a user that has 50 overdue tasks and they get 50 alerts, and it's 50 Android notifications. I assume it's just maybe useless. So maybe a follow-up question is there any sensitivity to the task prioritization work that we've done recently that allows a certain threshold of tasks to only fire those alerts?
Yeah, that's a great question. We've had a bunch of conversations regarding that, and thanks for the question, Mr. Jones. The first line of defense against the noise is the configurability of how many notifications a user can get at once. So as I mentioned earlier on, the default is 8. So let's say you generated 8 tasks at once. If the default still applies and it has not been configured to any other number, then it will still be 8 notifications. But then again, you can configure this number to a smaller number, let's say 2. So even if 10 tasks have been generated, the user only receives 2 of those. And I also believe even if you configure it to be a very large number, let's say 50, the operating system won't let all the 50. I believe the limit is 24 for a single app. So anything that is added after that is just discarded by the operating system. Yeah, I don't know if that answers that. Just let me know.
Yeah, I'm really happy to hear. Just like Josh, I'm really happy to hear that there's been a lot of thought put towards it. And Josh, please go ahead. I'd love to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, just to jump in too and say, maybe even backing up a little bit, the first line of defense probably against getting inundated with a ton of tasks is to pay attention to the task config and how that's affecting your users. Because really, if a lot of your users have 50 uncompleted past due tasks, then your task configuration is not working anyways. So I think that would be kind of recommendation 1. I also think, there's been a lot of discussion, and I think some interesting ideas going forwards for further iterations on this functionality around perhaps filtering which tasks notify based on either task type or some kind of task priority. But I think the use cases there are still a little bit vague, and so the idea would be let's get this functionality out, and then we can start zeroing in on what do people actually, what do the users actually need in the field there.
Great. Thanks, Josh. Thanks, Jonathan. Wonderful to hear about.
All right. Thanks, Ashley, Josh, and Jonathan, for those discussions. I'm not sure if anyone has any final questions. before we move to the next presentation?
Yeah, I was also thinking the same, that if they have a lot, like 50 or hundreds of tasks, right? So the health worker become like so many notification getting on the app, so he may be like he may be turn off the notification feature. So we must be aware of that. So maybe we can merge like according to use cases. Like if we have 15 ANC to do today, so we can show it in a single notification that like you have a 15 ANC to do today, right? Or you have to complete 15 immunization for the children, right? So we can think beyond that also, right? Beyond the border. So that's the idea. Thank you.
All right. Yeah. Thanks for one. And yeah, glad that we are able to hear the user story from India, Nepal, and Uganda, which gives us like a global perspective. We are hoping that the projects can be able to test this feature just to verify if it's working once it's ready. And then we'll continue refining and working on it and customize it just to fit various use cases and needs. So looking forward to getting further updates and more requirements from the team. I think one takeaway from this presentation that we should share here is, in case we have any ideas or any challenges, let's feel free to share them on the forum. So this in-app push notification was shared long time on the forum, and based on the discussion that have been going on within the community has decided to prioritize it and work on it. So as we are working in various deployments, let's make sure that we share the ideas and the challenges. They might be big, but let's feel free to share with the community on the forum, and we can be able to discuss and be able to refine and come up with a solution that we could be able to work on together. So thanks all presenters who presented in that section. We can move to the next section, which is the CHT hosting cost calculator. And I would like to pass over the mic to Josh.
Thanks, Anthony. And maybe just before we wrap up the Android notifications one, I do want to just shout out to Jonathan. One of the reasons why push notifications has kind of been a thing that has taken so long to get to the CHT is push notifications in Android is pretty easy. Like WhatsApp, it just works. It's pretty easy if you are online all the time and the server can just push you notifications. Or usually it's Google Firebase pushing you notifications. In the CHT, we really needed these push notifications both to kind of work offline and also work on data that's been generated while the user is offline and has not yet connected to the server again. And so as the users, maybe they're not connected to the server, they're out of network service, they're using the app, it's generating kind of new local tasks as the CHT works, offline like that. At the same time, Jonathan and also shout out, Deanna's not here, but she kind of came in with some key insights into how to make this work. What he's cooked up is this really pretty brilliant and innovative way to simply and effectively do background notifications. So even if the app is not open, even if the user hasn't looked at the app yet that day or whatever, then we're still able to pull those kind of offline notifications from the app, show them to the user. It's really kind of a innovative notification strategy that you don't really see in a lot of other Android apps at all. So once again, shout out Jonathan for the great work we have going here. Super exciting stuff. Less exciting, but still important is cost, right? Everybody needs the costs to go down. CHT cost. We've had some talks over the years, how do we estimate hosting costs in the CHT? It's kind of a recurring question that folks struggle to get a clear answer on. But it's really important for organizations that are trying to deploy the CHT for the first time, and also for existing partners that are looking at being able to estimate future costs or understand implications of kind of, if I add X many more users to my instance, what's that going to look like in terms of my AWS bill? And so this kind of question keeps coming back, and how come we can't have a simple number for how much it costs per user per month? And of course, the answer is, well, we kind of do. If you look at the kind of link there at the bottom of the page, out on the doc site, the 10 cents per user per month is a pretty high level estimation that we were able to put together based on kind of averages of the production systems that we studied and how much it was costing to run those per user per month. And this is a good kind of executive level ballpark number to just really quickly do some math on what you might be looking at. It's not the most useful, though, for generating a really detailed kind of clear idea of where your instance might end up. And that's because just there's a lot of factors that go into the calculation on how much the CHT is going to cost to run. And depending on how close or far your deployment is from what we could call the average CHT deployment, it is going to affect whether or not that number is accurate for you. So the goal here was to kind of try to get a more accurate number that's tailored to people's specific circumstances, but also is not requiring them to kind of sit down and have a entire technical business plan on exactly what everything's going on. It still needs to be kind of easy to be able to play with and see the effects of different things without taking weeks of engineering and business time to come up with exactly what's going to happen here. So the idea was, let's create a algorithm that we can run that will just accept a certain number of inputs from the user and then crunch the numbers to the best of our abilities and spit out another value here, kind of in terms of cost per month or cost per year, that hopefully is a little bit more tightly bound to the particular circumstances of the user there. And I'm just going to skip straight to a quick demo here of what that looks like. This is not even, I would say, a hot off the press. This is not even on the press yet in terms of this has not been released to the public doc site yet. In fact, the PR to include these changes hasn't been reviewed yet. So you're really seeing the bleeding edge of what we've got here. But and with that in mind, don't pay too much attention to the exact numbers. All of this is kind of subject to further refinement as we go forwards. What you're seeing here is just kind of some placeholders that I've shoved in. Some of them are educated guesses, and some of them are maybe some uneducated guesses. So don't pay too much attention to the numbers. What you can see, though, is it starts off with some fairly generic 2,000 people served, 100 users. You might end up with a total cost, and this is just the whole instance cost of $5,500 per year. And you see down here we've got this 12 cents per user per month, and then there's a couple other data points here. If I was to increase this number considerably, you can see the costs and everything is starting to change as it goes forwards. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and Same with the number of users. As you adjust these, the different values are going to change, and your instance costs continue to rise. You can play with, the number of workflows that you're going to have, play with, how many years worth of documents are you storing, and that's where things start getting really spicy. But yeah, all of that is kind of able to live update these different values that you see as you go through here. On top of these 4 parameters, there's kind of some advanced stuff in here that we're playing with as well. As a estimation tool, we still have to abstract away from details at some point and make some educated guesses. But even these advanced parameters are going to let us hopefully dial in a little bit closer to maybe what's specific to your instance, if you really want to break things down even further and just get a better cost estimate on some of this stuff here. And I think that's pretty close to what I mean, you can see here too, one of the things that I'm doing is trying to also show the difference in the cost of the disk space versus the cost of the CPU and RAM on your server instance. You can tell from these numbers, the CHT, we've had a ongoing total cost of ownership effort trying to reduce the disk space usage of it. And then this is why the disk cost is a huge part of the CHT, and the whole idea is being able to reduce the amount of disk space will help save people the largest percentage when it comes to their total cost. Yeah, I think that's pretty much all. There's not a lot here yet. That's all I've got to show for now. This is still a really rough draft. It's still in PR, ready to be reviewed. But feel free, if you've got ideas, if you've got thoughts on how things can be improved out there. There's the PR out on the doc site, and my hope is we can kind of continue to evolve this functionality so that it becomes even more accurate over time. This is my first pass in terms of kind of what's the important parameters here, but I think there's maybe more that we could add, maybe some that are worth removing, just to get into what's going to be the most value to people out there. I'll pause here for a second and see if anybody has any questions about that. Cool. Yes, Jonathan, I see on the chat that you mentioned local currency. I 100%, that's a great additional kind of feature complexity, additional facet to add here. I think that would be good. It would be interesting, and I don't know if anybody can speak to this. Maybe we can take this discussion offline, but when it comes to paying for hosting costs, yeah, is it usually being factored in terms of local currency, or is USD kind of the standard there for paying AWS bills, that kind of thing? Jude, and I see your question there too about what determines the RAM and CPU requirements. That's also a great question. I have a to-do out on the PR actually to include more documentation kind of in this page about what calculations are happening in terms of these numbers. To the CPU and RAM requirements for the host are, of course, roughly related to the number of users on that host and kind of the number of workflows that you're operating with. And so both of those are going to affect the doc creation rate, traffic on the server, and just general server load. In terms of, okay, that's great. That's the inputs that affect that output. How did I arrive at kind of the values here? Currently, it was kind of based on some educated guessing, looking at different instances we have out there, and seeing just rough how many users, workflows, etc. are on here. My hope is when this actually goes live, to have good kind of documentation on the numbers we observed in production, so that we can kind of provide that along with it as somewhat of a basis or a justification for these recommendations there. I do think the 4 gigabytes of RAM, 2 CPUs is the base recommended instance for hosting the CHT on. But as you start to scale up from there, it is very interesting looking across some of the production instances we've seen on, how many users can you run with 8 cores? How many users can you run with 16 cores? We've got an instance or two running with 48 cores, so that's pushing some traffic through as well. But yeah, that's where those requirements come from. And if there's no other question, oh, Priscilla, yes.
Yeah, hi Josh. Thank you so much and Happy New Year.
Same.
Yeah, sorry I was in and out, so I might have missed part of your presentation. Just to seek clarity, is this specifically for cloud hosting? And why I'm asking, a lot of governments are moving away from cloud hosting to, in country for specific reasons around security. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's also another great question. So the short answer is the current kind of first pass is going to be mostly targeted, I think, at generic cloud hosting, probably largely based on AWS costs. But I think the value of being able to build a widget like this, and once again, this is just HTML, CSS, and JavaScript here. There's no fancy frameworks backing this up. It's very, very kind of basic on the technical side. And so the ability for us to add kind of additional fields to customize there, so that if you've got your own, we can store in our data center data at 5 cents a gigabyte instead of AWS where it's 10 cents a gigabyte. Yeah, we definitely want to be able to make that configurable in here so that you could input your own hosting costs and get an idea of it. It doesn't support that right now, but I think as we start simple and then we can kind of work our way out from there, we'll be able to pretty easily plug stuff like that in. And now that is going to kind of raise the question of how can you determine exactly how much it's going to cost to host in a on-premises data center itself, alongside other apps. But that I think will be part of the fun. Sorry, I interrupted somebody.
Yeah, you didn't interrupt me, Josh. I was just going to add on. Priscilla, I think the repatriation of data is definitely a trend that we've seen. So I love your question. And when I was reviewing this tool last night, I realized there can be a lot of power in just knowing the size of the deployment, right? So as you're trying to estimate, we have a tuberculosis workflow that we want to add, and in a year's time, we're going to onboard another 1,000 users. You can see that the RAM, disk, and CPU requirements are going to go up, and hopefully that will be a lot of helpful information, right? You'll be able to take that to your IT teams and they can say, oh, okay, who cares about what AWS costs? We know what the impact is of adding 10 more cores to the system, or needing to plan to have an extra, 100 terabytes of disk over the next coming year. So I think they're beyond the dollar number. there's a lot of value with this tool that we're hoping to bring to the community. And as Josh mentioned, we're very excited to see this get validated, and be helpful. So very much looking towards the community to get feedback on that. Back to you, Josh.
Thanks, Mr. Jones. 100% there. As we are approaching the end of the hour here, I'm going to keep us rolling in case so Anthony doesn't yell at me. And up next is me again with the CHT plugins squad updates. So some of you who have been watching the community calendar and community meetups and different things may have heard we've put together a squad to pursue the idea of plugins in the CHT. And what do I mean by that? Shout out to Western Cape. Their team kind of provided some special impetus behind this project with a proof of concept PR coming in last year around where they had custom front-end information, front-end functionality that they wanted to be able to display to their CHT users. They wanted it to stay in the app, so it wasn't kind of linking to an external app somewhere, but it was just kind of some simple workflow content that they wanted to show to the user, but it really didn't fit the rest of the CHT paradigm. Right, so in a CHT, you can already configure stuff like contact summary, tasks, targets, that kind of thing. But displaying custom functionality is currently something that can be a challenge if it doesn't fit into kind of that existing paradigm. So we put together this squad. We've been kind of iterating on the different use cases that we might want to go solve and working on a design proposal here. By the end of last year, so coming into this year, what we had pretty much coalesced on is we want to go kind of solve this problem of how do we show custom content to the user. A couple of sample use cases are around maybe you want to have a simple contact list page that shows the user people that they should contact if they need support. Maybe it's got links to phone numbers, that kind of stuff. Another one would be a wizard where the user could download a custom CSV onto their device that is maybe a report of the data, some of the data that they're tracking. Another use case would be showing them a dashboard. Maybe it's even a dashboard with content driven by an external website that's kind of linked into the CHT app, so that they're just staying in context, but are able to see kind of dashboards from other data systems. So all of this kind of thing, we ended up landing on a resolution to pursue a really broad plugin strategy based on web components. And I won't get into the details of web components, but essentially bring your own HTML, bring your own CSS, bring your own JavaScript. We're going to bundle it up. We're going to have an API where you can interact, your JavaScript can interact with the CHT's data model via this API. So you'll be able to operate against kind of the context of the data that the user sees in the CHT, as well as it's going to all work offline. As long as you're not making external calls from your plugin code, we should be able to load the plugin into the web app. And then when the user goes offline, they'll still be able to access that plugin. The plugin will still be able to access the data on the user's device. Hopefully everything will just work seamlessly as expected, as with other parts of that CHT app. This is still very much an ongoing effort. So we've got a squad meeting every week at Thursdays, 1400 UTC. So in 5 minutes, join us there for that. And I will land here. Back to you, Anthony.
All right, Josh, thanks. We can move to slide 19. Yeah, community survey findings. So, and this is the last section of the presentation. Last year, before we ended the year, we shared the survey, the community survey. So the survey is still active. So I wanted to share it here, just in case you have not shared your feedback. Please feel free to share your feedback. Before we wrap up the call, you can just open it. It will take you like 3 to 5 minutes to share your feedback. So that feedback would help us to improve the processes and make sure that we can be able to prioritize some of the requirements and needs that the community has. In case you are a French speaker like me, please, there is also a French version. So feel free to share your feedback in French. And I've seen Lukman here. So looking forward to seeing your feedback in French. We'll be able to translate that and share that to the community. So a preview of some of the features that the community have been able to share so far. We have a lot of community members who are interested in Form Builder to make it easy to build CHT applications. And then we have got requests for more training videos to make it easier for people to understand CHT, integrated dashboard, and the visual interface of what goes on the back end, especially in terms of development. And some of the priorities would be to prioritize scalability and then interoperability, and also start looking at how we could be able to leverage AI to make it easier for us just to build CHT applications or probably provide support, and also make it easier for implementers to deploy and support CHT. So we'll be able to post more feedback once we receive it, but in case you are okay, you can just open up that survey and share your feedback. And in case you'd like us to reach out to you for any further discussion, we'll be happy to schedule a meeting or a call for us just to discuss about that. Then I saw Faith from Wado has joined us. I wanted to give her an opportunity to introduce herself and the organization she works for before we go to the last slide. Faith, if you can hear me. All right, it seems she didn't get me. So, Josh, still we can move to the next slide. So we are at the tail end of our call, and I wanted to remind you about the upcoming events. Next week, we have a community meetup. These are convenings we usually have for us just to share priorities and discuss some of the challenges various deployments are facing. Please feel free to join that meeting next week at 1 to 2 p.m. East African time. Then the technical meeting would happen on Jan 22nd, and that will be the CHT Dev Hour. Then our next roundup call will be on February 12th. Same time, same place, same link. We'll be sharing the recording and notes probably next week. And then, yeah, I would like to take this opportunity to thank all the presenters and all the participants. And in a minute, I want to hear if there is anyone who has any last minute question or input or additions before we wrap up the call. As we are filling the survey. All right, thanks for your time. Let's end it here. So looking forward to seeing you in our other meetings. And for those who are part of the CHT plugin squad, let's meet in the next 30 seconds. So wishing you a successful year, and let's continue the conversations. Thank you and bye.